The Xperia XZ is a curious creation, a sort of collision between last year's Xperia Z and the more recent X line. It's still a metal-backed, plastic-framed phone, but now the plastic loops around the entire body of the device, while the top and bottom sections are completely flat. It's an unusual design, and perhaps a bit of a throwback to the look of certain Nokia Lumia handsets. The plastic curves make for a comfortable in-hand feel, but the metal can become incredibly gunked up with fingerprints, and the overall aesthetic is just a little bit dull, especially in this black model we've been using. Several key specs hold over from the last major Sony release, the X Performance. You've still got a Snapdragon 820 processor running the show, 3GB of RAM and 32GB of storage plus microSD. But there are Xperia Z influences too, a larger 5.2-inch screen, though still at 1080p, which looks great despite not matching the pixel density of some high-end phones. And it's also water resistant, a feature that's great to see and still not as common as we'd like at the high end. There's also a bigger 2900 mAh battery, which in most cases was enough to see us through a day even of heavy use here in Berlin covering the IFA show. When it's time to top up, Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 should have you covered. And on longer days you can rely on Sony's stamina mode to cut back on performance and see you through to the next charge. This isn't a 2-day phone though, no matter what Sony says. At a certain point you just run into limits in terms of battery capacity. Cameras have always been a huge part of Sony's phones, and the Xperia XZ actually contains a few really important upgrades in this area. There's 5-axis stabilization, an important first for Sony that helps in low light shots, as well as laser autofocus and a color spectrum sensor. Around the front, Sony's upgraded the selfie camera to a 13 megapixel unit behind an f2.0 lens for even brighter pictures in the dark. And on the whole, this technology comes together to produce some really good looking shots, but the camera's not without its issues. We found white balance in particular to be problematic in some daylight shots, where the phone can sometimes misjudge things. Then there's the fact that dynamic range and low light performance, though good, can't compete with the latest phones from Samsung. And when shooting at the full 23 megapixel resolution, photos often look over-sharpened or smudgy close up. This isn't a bad camera by any means, and we never captured any terrible shots with it, but at the same time it's clear that Sony hasn't caught up with the best in field just yet.
For much more on the Sony Xperia XZ and all of our IFA 2016 coverage, be sure to check out AndroidCentral.com.